Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That it?
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and we are back. And we are back with a friend of the program. The last time we had him on, he was at Lambeau. This time he was at SoFi. We wanted to have this friend back on the show to discuss an inflection point in the Eagles season as somebody who is boots on the ground. Tom Stakes, welcome back to BVB.
How we doing, man? Rough game, but yeah, I'm alive. I'm here, and yeah, I live to tell about it. So
I got a dog this week, and when I went to the pet shop, the guy working the cashier stand, this was like, I think the day after the Eagles game, and he was working the morning shift, and he goes, "How are you?" And I go, "Good, man, how are you?" And he goes, "I'm here." I was like, that's so relatable right now.
yeah, seriously, yeah, that's how I felt ever since I got back from the trip. You know, obviously with a vacation, but mixing in like an Eagles loss into an LA trip was pretty rough. So I'm here, but we'll see how I do. You know.
Puts a damper on the trip for sure. We'll have to jam pack as much Eagles things as we can do into the show, but how was the SoFi experience?
SoFi is a really incredible stadium from an architectural standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's very beautiful, modern. I mean, it's crazy seeing it in person. Like, it really is very captivating to the eye. But I was really, I mean, I don't know if I'd say I was surprised, but I'm used to the, full stadium packed right before kickoff, everyone cheering, and SoFi did not really fill up. I mean, right before kickoff, I think I tweeted a video out, and it was like a lot of empty clusters of seats. And I wasn't too happy to see that. I thought this was going to be, wall to wall, and I guess that's why the higher seats are cheaper. There's a lot of empties, and then there's a lot of Eagles fans there as well. So it didn't really feel like an intense road game, really. Not around my section or in anything. I thought everyone said on TV you could even hear a lot of Eagles fans. So yeah. So from that standpoint, the SoFi experience, the interaction with the fans or whatever, was like kind of bland. Like, it wasn't really there. But the stadium itself was like very, very incredibly built.
So I don't know if you've been able to watch the replay at all, but it translated in the game. Like, it felt like an Eagles home game. The broadcast called that out. They said on multiple occasions how loud it was with Eagles fans. They kind of panned over the crowd a few times, and it wasn't, oh, here's some Eagles fans. It was sections. Like, it was just green sections, and they were just showing entire sections of Eagles fans. The frustrating and demoralizing part was you could feel these crowd eruptions. You could sense momentum shifts, and that crowd, you were part of it, but it came through the TV that they were just begging. They were like, deliver that knockout punch. Mm-hmm. Let us erupt on the road. Have this like Philly crowd moment. Mm-hmm. Never got it.
Yeah. I mean, the Saquon run was like the big breakthrough play of the game, but it was more of that stalling out, not feeling like we could ever put the game away. And as the game got into those last moments, you were like, man, can we even trust these guys? And like, that's been the feeling of this team. So it's definitely, that's a valid assessment of that. It was tough, man. Every time we got going, every time everyone was excited, it just didn't last, or we couldn't pull it off. And
I'm like a fair weather UFC fan, but even if you're a fair weather fan, sometimes you watch those fights and you can always tell. You can really tell when a fighter is gassed and you know that it's about to end. I felt like the Eagles had the Chargers in that moment where you knew it was over for that fighter 7 times.
Yeah.
No exaggeration. 7 or 8 times they really had them on the ropes and just couldn't capitalize. Shot themselves in the foot and let them right back in it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on both sides of the ball too. I mean, I know the defense played another really good game, but there was a couple times where, they just needed to hold him out of field goal range even, or just anything. And they came back on us twice with field goals to tie the game late. And then our offense on top of that, like the fact that it even was a 3-point game a couple times, it's like, man, if we could have just put some TDs on the board, sustained some drives. But this offense is really struggling right now. There's just no rhythm.
There's short-term issues and long-term, and short-term in that game, to use this metaphor, and I think it works, the Chargers were almost quite literally playing with a hand behind their back because Justin Herbert could not handle the ball the way he normally could. They could not run their offense the way that they normally could. They could not run the ball effectively, which made it even worse on him. And the Eagles decided, what if we also tied our hand behind our back and committed multiple penalties and had 5 turnovers to balance that out? And I tweeted this after the game, but you just go through the list of just back-breaking things that cost them that game. They were driving in the first half, and there were some looks on offense you hadn't seen before. You think, wow, that's creative. That's cool stuff. Interception. They get down to the 2-yard line. It's 1st and goal from the 2. Hold. And I know that's a controversial one. End of the half. Interception. 15 yards. Gifted a free throw of a field goal. Miss. Second half. Fake tush push. Touchdown. Stop on defense. Good punt return. Driving. You have them absolutely on the ropes right there. Pick. Have them gassed in overtime. Driving down the field. Pick. Like, you just... Like, the mistakes that they make, you cannot overcome no matter how talented you are. And right now, they aren't even playing up to the talent as it is. If they have any chance of getting back in the season, the short-term solution is you have to stop these back-breaking, just demoralizing, gut-punching mistakes that they make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have put it any better. And going through drive by drive like that to see what the outcome could have been versus what happened to hold us back. And, you got to put it on everybody where when it, early in the season, I felt like a lot of people were so hell bent on pushing this whole thing that the coaching and the play calling and specifically the OC was the problem. And now you're seeing that like there was probably a little bit deeper of a problem in that, part of it is the coaching not really having a plan B for a run game that didn't get going this season and how they would change the offense. And now it's a little late and you're seeing some of these changes, but now it like looks even sloppier because this obviously isn't what these guys are used to or what they were doing. So there's partly goes the blame on the coaches, but then there's the players. I mean, it's still football. You're making a play and you're committing a bad penalty. I don't care really if you're not used to running the play or not. Like it still comes down to like you not holding or not putting your hands on the guy's face mask. And these are fundamental things. So it's almost like these guys are thinking about it a little too much and just making mental errors and not playing clean. And that's how you lose. Yeah, to worse teams, the teams you're better than, the only way you lose is you kill yourself. And that's what they've been doing.
That's what I feel like it's been multiple times this year that's happened. And you're right. Overall, I think as we go from short term of how they lost to the Chargers to long term, how do we fix this? If it's fixable, the play calling I'll get into, but at some point you got to look at the players. Like leaving out of the mistakes that I listed before, it's 16-16. The superstar wide receiver who wanted the ball so badly gets the game-winning touchdown in his hands, drops it. They come back to the other superstar receiver the following play. He drops it. That saved the Chargers 20 seconds that they ended up needing. That's the little difference. Sometimes it's one drop. It's the 20 seconds that you save a team that they can use to get down the field. On either of those plays, was Kevin Patullo an issue? Like, and the third down play wasn't great, but I did see the vision of we're going to get a short pass that's almost an extension of the run game to force the Chargers to use their last time out or wind this to the 2-minute warning. And that's just one of those things. It's like we got to look in the mirror a little bit, especially on offense with some of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the coaching can't be put on the hook for guys that are all coaching can do is put you in position to make the play. And the AJ, and I don't know if necessarily the coaches said, hey, we have to go to AJ deep here. But that situation, AJ even said it. Jalen, despite all of what happened in the game, all the things that went on, Jalen put the ball in his hands to win the game or at least go up a touchdown with not a lot of time left. And he didn't make the play. And so you can't blame anyone but AJ on that specific play. And I think that's something that people want to put a Band-Aid over it or a blanket statement like, well, the OC isn't calling good plays, so that's creating everything. But now when you really sit down and look at these games drive by drive, the reason this team's not playing well isn't because there's one problem. It's because every drive you can point to like 3 different guys that made a mistake. And some of it is obviously that is on coaching because that's discipline, that's cleaning things up. Whatever they're doing just is not connecting overall. And it's like, yes, it's from coaches, the players, but it's a collaborative effort. And I've been preaching that since early in the season, and I got attacked and said I was defending the coaches and I was defending the play calling, and that's not what I was doing. What I kept trying to say is that my criticism was not excluding anyone. It just wasn't exclusive to anyone. So you could talk about any which issue, and the coaching thing was getting beat to death. And I wish it was just as easy as, well, the coaches just kind of need to tweak some things and we'll be fine. Like, I mean, you see them tweaking things and all year, nothing's worked.
Yeah. I just want to touch on a few things that you mentioned because you were preaching, and I totally agree with what you said. And to be fair, I don't think Kevin Patullo's a great offensive coordinator. I don't think he's a great play caller.
He's just inexperienced, if you would say it. That's
inexperience is a great. Yeah, I feel like he doesn't have like a great game pulse, game feel. Now, with that being said, the theory that I've been workshopping, and you said it more eloquently than I can say it, I don't think they have a play calling problem. I think it's how they run the plays that's the problem. Like the overall execution isn't there. If the WIP callers of the world got their way and Kevin Patullo was fired, there isn't somebody who's coming in tomorrow and there's a secret binder of golden tickets of plays that they're just not running. You know, like, yeah, I want them to run less hitch routes. I get that, right? I want to see more variation. But I think a much larger part is how they're executing on the field. I am going to end up in Pennhurst Asylum if I have to see Tyler Steen turned around looking at Jalen Hurts like he's his buddy in the back of the class with 1 second left on the play clock anymore this season. Right. It's every play. Mm-hmm. And that is a good example of you're not executing the offense smoothly enough. Right. The plays, tough. Like, it's not the best play caller. But I think it is the overall connection, like you mentioned, within this offense that is the heart of what is not working.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's a total collective effort. And, it comes down to the offseason, look-ahead narrative of, do you have an honest conversation about this coaching staff? And obviously, when the offseason hits, I think you're going to have a lot stronger pool of candidates. And, it's going to be easy to move on from a first-year guy who he's not going to provide much when things are going wrong, but more so be a beneficiary of your easy button fixes like leaning on the run game, things like that. It's not like he can, get you out of a jam. So you got an experienced guy has seen more, so he could get you out of a jam. But pertaining to this year, that's all off-season stuff. Pertaining to this year, we kind of knew the obstacles. Like, we knew the problems. We knew Adoree Jackson was going to be a guy we had to work around, and we knew that Tyler Steen, and he's actually been pretty good. So it's like that problem didn't become as big a problem. We knew that our OC was going to be an inexperienced guy from a weak pool of candidates that was going to need to be hired in a pinch. And mostly they wanted to try to maintain the continuity and familiarity on the team. So really what we needed this year was the run game to come back dominant. Hey, 2,000 yards is a lot, but we needed a dominant run game at least. And that's the easy button fix for everything on an offense, to be able to run the ball really well. It makes your whole team look better. Your offense can be smoother. You can get into more favorable situations. And without that, we haven't really been a team that is used to playing without a run game in the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts era. So I think that is the biggest problem with this team specifically, is that the offensive line and the run game just hasn't been the same. And if it was, I think we could overcome an inexperienced play caller. I think we could overcome some of the dumb things Nick Sirianni does, because there's every coach has flaws. And, Sean McVay hasn't won a Super Bowl in 4 years. I'm sure they've done some really dumb stuff, but does anyone call for his job every year? No. So I think you can overcome some of these things if you just are a really good team every year. And sometimes the Eagles play below that, and that's not all on the coaches. I think that's on the collective and on the players as well. So, I think calling for everybody's job every time there's a bad stretch is a little bit over-exaggeratory or over-exaggerate. I'm making stuff. I'm making up words. I'm on jet lag still, but yeah, I think it's very, very overreactionary to say the least. And I think, we have to kind of live with what it is and give these guys kind of a chance to iron things out. But, there's off-season conversations about coaching. And then right now it's like, what can they do? Like you mentioned before, like short-term fixes. Like like the people ask me on my stream I do the Twitter spaces every week. And people always ask, like, well, then what do we do if we're not going to fire Kevin Patullo or we're not going to do this or that? What do we do? And I always say the only way out is through. Like, you just have to look in the mirror, like you said, and get better. Or, like, because there's no one coming to save you right now. It's just nothing like December.
And what's painfully ironic is you felt pretty confident in a lot of what they were doing on offense in that Chargers game.
I was surprised fans had that reaction. It's almost like, because I'm like, man, we turned the ball over 5 times. And I get on Twitter and people are like, well, I'm encouraged by the play calling. I'm like, God, the play calling, I get it. So now I've kind of been conflicted about that. Is like, I kind of see where they're coming from because they wanted to see more of that aggression and we saw it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then you also see the side of like, well, this is what aggression, we have a very small sample size of them kind of playing aggressively. And I bet against the Raiders, they do a couple of these things, throw a couple of deep balls. They work out. We win 34-17. And now everyone's like, oh, told you we could air raid a team. But then, like, it's a high variance style. So you're going to see some of those 5 turnover games. And then you're going to see, oh, you're throwing lollipops up. You're getting the penalties. You're getting the calls. You're getting the matchups. Sometimes you blow a team out like that. So I think there's a dark side and a bright side to it. So I can see why people were excited to see that. But, I hope we see a clean version of that. Because this team was a team committing penalties trying to run the football.
Exactly. It felt like it was like, okay, we have our baseline foundation. Right. Like I told you, we got a dog this week. He's figured out we go to the door when we have to pee. Sometimes we still pee in the house, but we have figured out the baseline that we need to get to the door if we want to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I think that was that Chargers game. The offense has figured out we got to get to the door if we want to go to the bathroom. Yeah. It's about how we're going to execute that every single time now. It was the first time that I have felt positive strides. Now, how do we build on that going forward? And I want to talk about this Raiders game because it's very interesting. Like I said, I feel like we're at an inflection point. But a few things. You brought up like the continuity of last year and the consistency and that continuation and how this offense needs to look with Saquon running the ball. He was averaging 120 yards rushing a year ago. He's now averaging 60-plus yards rushing a game. He is producing at quite literally half the level he was a year ago. So when somebody comes under fire like Jalen Hurts, who I do think has deficiencies, and it just sucks that all the mouth breathers of social media got to watch that in what I thought was probably his worst game, and it happened to be Monday Night Football in front of the whole nation. But he gets blamed, and we talk about, well, anytime they have to throw it 30, 40 times, he struggles. Any team, if you're forced into throwing the ball 40 times because you can't run the ball, usually not successful. Yes. Bengals, Burrow has to throw it 45 times every week. Yep. They're not that successful because he has no running game to lean on, right? So, like, he gets blamed for this stuff. But I think that is more of like a congealing of the offense. Like, to put it in, Stranger Things just came out, right? I don't know if you're a Stranger Things guy.
I love it.
You love it?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. So this analogy will hit home with you. I've only watched one of the new episodes, so no spoilers.
That's fine. Yep.
He, like, Vecna controls this entire hive mind, the mind flare, the vines, the demogorgons. But when those things get damaged, he gets damaged. They're all connected as one hive mind. So when the hive mind is damaged, which is the offense, then Vecna gets damaged. That's how I feel watching Jalen Hurts. It's like, yeah, he's struggling. Look at the entire hive mind around him and how it's struggling. Right. So, like, that continuity of the running game not working, I think impacts him, and they're just like, well, this is what he is. If the run game doesn't work, he doesn't work. It's like, well, what offense has ever worked in the NFL without a run game? Right.
And that's I said that today. It was like on Twitter, I said, something like, when Jalen, and I've said this for years, it's like when Jalen is bad, people are like, see, told you he's bad. But when he's good, it's like, yeah, but it's because all these other pieces are lifting him up. So wouldn't it make sense that if he's bad, it's because the other pieces aren't lifting him up? Like, and that's what a team sport is. The quarterback is the most important player. It's funny because you start to question, you're like, the most glorified, said to be the toughest and most important position on the field in the quarterback is actually the one that depends on every other guy being good so he can be good. So is he really the most important, or is he the most guy that benefits the most? Well, that's yet to be determined, but I think it'll be a chicken or egg argument for the rest of the history of the sport. So, but like you said, man, it's like, yeah, I don't want no run game and receivers dropping balls. It's like, I've said this before too, like, yeah, completions are only cool when they're incomplete or when the guy drops it. Because it's like, yeah, how else do you expect a quarterback to be good other than his receiver getting open or making a tough catch? Like that's what it is. Every passing yard has a receiving yard attached to it. So it's like someone has to make a play, So yeah, it's like, it's weird that Jalen Hurts, every time he has a bad game, it's like, oh, I told you this is what he really is. But it's like, okay, well, we've seen him play really well, so why isn't that what he is? So
he's truly, it's the most thankless job right now. And the best job in the world is to be the backup quarterback in Philadelphia, which, don't get me wrong, I think Tanner McKee is actually a great quarterback. Yeah. I think he has startable capabilities. He'd make a great New Orleans Saint next year.
Right. He's going to get a chance somewhere probably for a job.
I don't think they insert him in this offense and everything's just we wave a magic wand like we're in Harry Potter and everything's fixed. It's just not.
I mean, if you're an Eagles fan from back in the early 2000s, and I'm sure before, but my era is the early 2000s, and I remember the AJ Feely, the Coy Detmer. I mean, even before that in the 90s, the Bobby Hoying, and he came into a year as a starter. The backup quarterback, they always call for that. Kevin Cobb was in that position for a bit. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, why go to an unknown? You're 8-5, leading your division. You want to make a quarterback change? Like, that sounds so ridiculous.
That's the problem, because it's worked out so well in the past in these short spurts that now it's like our break glass in case of emergency. Because you and I, being around the same age, like growing up, the backup quarterback trick gimmick just always worked. Jeff Garcia is our baby. We've made it to the playoffs.
Yep.
Mike Vick came in for Kevin Cobb. That worked. Foles is the most obvious one with the Super Bowl run. But even before that, like Ty Detmer and AJ Feely came in and won games when McNabb was hurt with a broken leg. Like, it's just been our entire life of backup quarterbacks coming in and succeeding. And now it's almost just like a double-edged sword, because it works. But now it's like, well, now we end up criticizing our really talented starting quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, though. Oddly enough, well, all the things you mentioned were due to injury. And obviously, if the guy got injured, you'd put him in. But you've seen, like you said, we've seen it work. It's funny, though, that in the Jalen Hurts era, it almost seems like there were some decent performances, but Gardner Minshew kind of resulted in more tough losses. Mm-hmm. You had Kenny Pickett came into that Washington game, and we lost that in a tough one. He was turning the ball over left and right last year. So, like, some of Jalen Hurts' backups haven't really been a better thing for this team, yet we want to see, and a lot of fans are talking about Tanner McKee. I heard it in the stands against Chicago. People saying that Tanner McKee could come in and run the offense better, and I just think it's absolutely ridiculous to think they're going to do something like that, unless injury happens, obviously, but voluntarily, no chance.
Voluntarily, I don't think there's any shot. That's a great point, though. Is we have seen this offense in the past few years without Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and it's not
a beautiful product.
No.
So
no, it's not. I mean, other than like last year, everyone hangs their hat on the Tanner McKee performances last year against the Cowboys in the second half when Kenny Pickett was pulled and they got McKee in, and then he started against the Giants and they won. But those are almost like preseason games at that point.
Yeah.
Like, we're playing wounded animal teams that aren't trying to win, that have quarterbacks that aren't. I mean, it wasn't like Dak was in there playing with his full set of guys and trying to win. Like, it was a blowout, a complete blowout. So I don't know. You can't just assume that a complete unknown because he looked good in some of the little areas. I just think fans need to relax with that. But it's what the starting quarterback in Philly is going to go through, and so we got to accept.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, just one last quick thing before we get to the Raiders. But if you're a Philly fan, just envision right now. I love Tanner McKee, but say it is the wild card weekend and you're playing a playoff game against the Seattle defense.
Yeah.
Tell me in your heart of hearts who you'd rather have as your quarterback, Jalen Hurts or Tatum McKee. I want people to be honest with themselves and answer that question honestly. I think we're 100% down the board. Everybody would agree who would be the quarterback in that situation. But you did bring up Kenny Pickett. I promise we'll get to the game that they are about to play because Kenny Pickett is back in Philadelphia. He'll likely be the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. And what is a abnormal game, 1 o'clock against an AFC team. We have not got a lot of just regular 1 o'clock games. We've been playing in prime time a lot. What's your feeling going into this game after the loss on Monday?
I mean, 3 losses now in a row, up 21-0 against Dallas 2-3 weeks ago, and looked like everything was about to turn for the better, and it turned for the worst starting with that game. So I've been saying this team is like kind of matchup proof. Like, it doesn't really matter who they play. They're just playing bad. But I do think that the Raiders are in some really, really, really rough status right now. They're like a really bad team. And
they are so bad.
Man, if we could blow them out, I'd feel great. But
yes.
I think we win the game. I think, but is it because the Raiders are like running in mud? And no, the Raiders are running in quicksand and we're running in mud. And we're going to win the race because we're not the team running in quicksand, which doesn't necessarily mean anything good for us.
I was going to say, this is a game where they just have to come out and just pedal to the metal. Even if you're running in mud and it doesn't look perfect at all times, strong start. Because what you don't want, and what I was worried about coming off a demoralizing loss when that felt like a game everything would be back on track if they pull that off, even in overtime against the Chargers. Doesn't happen. Now you're on a short week, right? So that's always a little bit tough, no matter who the opponent is. But it leads you to have the possibility to be sluggish. I think the crowd might be sluggish. It's going to be bitter cold. It's going to snow in the morning. I think if they go 3 and out on the first drive, everyone's in the crowd just going to throw their hands up again and be like, here we go again. And they're going to mentally check out. We're having body language conversations on the sideline, which I don't love. I'm like, are the guys on the sideline then going to be like, oh, here we go again? But at the same time, I am still very confident that won't be the case. Like, I do think that they're going to come out and try to steamroll this game.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I've been like against it before. I was asking my friends, why are you confident in the play calling? We turned the ball over 5 times. I honestly might just go completely rogue on this one and say, like, I don't care if they lose, if they throw the ball 40 times with like 10 deep shots. Just go scorched earth. I just don't care because I'm sorry, an ugly win over this team is not going to do anything for me at all.
No,
it's just not. Like, I'm just going to be like, okay, well then what happens when we play the Seattle or the Rams or any of those teams? Like, I need to see this team just be like, mistakes done. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, we just are so embarrassed. We're just going all out. And if it's double down, basically, just double down. Yeah. Okay. If you lose, all right. We're done then. Whatever. But just honestly, just go for it. You got to come out hot, like you said. You can't come out looking stale, looking stiff. Like, this team's got to dig deep, and all that preaching in the offseason. And there's a lot of injuries on this team right now too, which is tough. But all that preaching in the offseason about we're not defending champs, we're trying to do something for the first time. And it looks like they're just like, every week. Like, someone show us that, like, this game on Sunday is like the start of like a new season almost. Like, find it somewhere, man. If it's not there, it's not there. But that's the only thing I'll be happy about this week.
That's how I feel. Is like, this is a great last 4 games to just be like, hey, let's get this together, right? Yeah. Like, I feel like this is just even after that loss, this is such a great opportunity for this team, and I hope they seize it. And I do feel like those guys in that locker room have the pride to seize it. And I would love to just look up in the fourth quarter and it's 27-7 and we're in and out. Yep. And they just take care of business. Like, and you know what? It is the Raiders, and I want to touch on them for a second, but that'd be okay with me. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a bad team. If you handle your business even against bad teams, that's actually a great sign of a good team. Is you don't mess around, you execute, you focus, even if the team you going in mentally, you know that team isn't as talented as you, and you handle business at home, especially. So if they walk out in that game, and I know it's a bad team, but if they get that win, get themselves back on track, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like we're season our season again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like you said, like a lot of people always talk about like, oh, they're a bad team, you beat a bad team, it's not a big deal, but it's like more like how you handle your business, and like that is the sign of like a team that's playing well, is they're playing well against everybody, not just good opponents, because good opponents are supposed to kind of fire back and keep the game close.
Yeah.
But the teams that aren't as good and they have deficiencies, you have to show that like you have those strengths in those areas. And I know the Raiders have a bad offensive line. I've seen that get exposed a ton of times this season. And so, but even without Jalen Carter, and then you have Kenny Pickett. So defense, if the defense can just give our offense more opportunities this game, get them kind of feeling more confident, some short fields maybe even, I'd feel really good about what we can do.
Given the Raiders' talent, like I said, I want to get into them in 1 second. If you put together all of your positives against the Chargers game, that defense I thought played really well minus Jalen Carter. Like they tormented that offensive line that's pretty bad for LA. You're getting another one in the Raiders. Continue that. Thumbs up. You'll be great. On offense, if you continue the way you were able to move the ball and cut down on those turnovers, you'll win this game going away, because the Raiders are truly that bad. I've watched too much Raiders for a normal, sane human being, because having Brock Bowers in fantasy. It is, I'm not exaggerating, some of the worst football I've ever seen. Like it's the type of football you look up and you kind of laugh at yourself. They made a comment at the end of the game last week in the Broncos game, like, there's probably somebody still watching us who needs a Brock Bowers catch or something like that. And I was just sitting on the couch shaking my head. I was like, I'm that lunatic subjecting myself to the Raiders. But man, they might have the only offensive line that's worse than the Chargers right now. They've allowed a ton of sacks this year. Geno Smith was the most sacked quarterback in the league up until the point that he is now injured because he got sacked so many times. They traded Jacoby Myers, so they really don't have a ton of wide receiver depth or talent. Trey Tucker's interesting, but that's really all they have. Bowers, teams just bracket him because there's really no other weapons. In the run game, they took a running back in the first round, top 10 pick. They have gone 7 straight games without 75-plus rushing yards. It is a streak that is on par. It's the worst since 1941. To put it in perspective, Adolf Hitler was still in power in the world the last time a team was as bad at running the football as this current year's Las Vegas Raiders. That's how bad they are. And then 5 straight games where they've allowed 4+ sacks and haven't been able to run for 75 yards. It is truly as bad as it gets offensively. And then just to top it all off, they had 3 drives that the Broncos had 8+ minute drives in that game last week. So the defense can't even get off the field. It is crazy. So the Eagles really just got to show up and start throwing haymakers and it could be over.
Yeah. No, I mean, they got if there was a more perfect team to get when you're playing this bad, let me know, because this seems like the perfect team to just pulverize, and they just are. I mean, we're at home. I know a little bit of a short week, but we're at home on it. They're on, coming off of a loss against Denver. I think like you said, they played Denver. And that was they're coming across country either way, because I think they were in Denver, but even if they were at home, it's Vegas.
They were in Vegas. So
they were in Vegas. Well, it's
further.
the same, right? Okay, so so it's a little further, and they're okay. So they're coming across country. We're on a short week, kind of evens out there. The Eagles are, we talked about 2023 last time I was on and how we thought we were getting rid of that, and now it's like looking more and more likely. Let me give you this parallel. In 2023, we lost to a pretty strong NFC team in the 49ers. 2025, the Bears. Dallas. A Monday night West Coast game with a compromised quarterback. Drew Lock was actually the starter. And, that Herbert, like you said, had the broken hand. So there's some parallels there. Lost all 3 of those. And now you go into this last stretch. You have Commanders twice, just like you had the Giants twice in 2023. You also have last year's equivalent to the Raiders is the Arizona Cardinals, who played on like New Year's Day, I think, or New Year's Eve it was. And I was at that game. We were 11.5-point favorites, just like we are this weekend, and we lost. And so, just feels nasty. But this is like another thing that is crazy is I look for like opposite parallels. In like 2022, we lost the Super Bowl. 2024, we won the Super Bowl. So I'm waiting for this 2023 thing to like turn. You know what I mean? Yeah, like it needs to. There's parallels, but we need to like move to okay. It's going to happen a little bit differently this time after being set up to be the same. Maybe we go on like a little run right now and go into the playoffs on a high note. So we'll see. But there's a lot of parallels to 2023, and we're playing sloppy like that, and see if they can get it back on track, man. But this is the team to do it against.
You're so right. In the back of my mind, the intrusive thoughts are always just like, this is playing out exactly like it was in 2023. Albeit the one difference, and this might not even be a good thing, is there's some generational talent on this defense that is fun to watch. Like that year, we're like, maybe Darius Leonard has something left in the tank to play linebacker because we have nobody else. Meanwhile, 3 times a game, the Kobe Dean is running over some running back like a human missile and sacking the quarterback. Like they're awesome to watch. The linebackers have been awesome. Defensive line was great, even minus Jalen Carter. So, and Cooper DeJean. When I say generational, him and Quignon are truly looking. You got 2 generational pieces in one draft.
Yeah.
And that's probably where the parallel stops with 2023, and you hope that pulls you through because they've been a ton of fun to watch even during this slump, minus the Bears game. But everything else, they've been awesome. And you think, given the talent discrepancy and Kenny Pickett's like kind of inability to ever get the ball down the field, we saw that when he was with the Eagles last year. Feels like all of these guys that have been teeing off get another opportunity to really tee off.
Yeah, absolutely. And some turnover potential. There's a lot of potential here. And no, you're right. That's the thing. Like, it makes you wonder, like, okay, in 2023, we were like bleeding at the end of that season because mostly our defense just could not like make play. Like the secondary was slow and old and the defensive line was slow and old. And it was just bad. The linebackers were atrocious. Like some of the worst we've had. And we've had a lot of bad linebacker groups. So like when you look at this defense, it makes you wonder, like, man, yeah, maybe it's ugly in the regular season. Maybe you kind of limp into the playoffs a little bit, but like, isn't playoff football all about playing really good defense? Yeah. So like, I mean, when you can keep the game close with your defense, AJ Brown, you got the game winning pass in your fingertips and you let it go. Like that could have, like, you know what I mean? So your defense held you in it so you could have those opportunities. And when you get some of those opportunities, it comes down to just like luck almost. Like there's a lot left up to chance. Eagles can't really run the ball. They're not really controlling the outcomes as well as you can, because that's really the overarching goal of any pro sport, is to do the things that are the most efficient that help you control the outcome, because you can't fully, but you try your best. And without the run game, the Eagles are leaving a lot up to chance. But maybe in the playoffs, if they can play this kind of defense and stay in games, they can get a little bit lucky with those chances, and those games usually come down to 1 or 2 possessions. And maybe all it takes is a little bit of luck to get your confidence going. So,
absolutely, yeah, that's kind of what springboarded the 2017 Super Bowl, is that pass off the knee in the Falcons game, and it got us going. So, you're right. Sometimes it does take a little bit of luck, and I still think it's such a talented team that I'll trust this defense against anybody. And a good motto to live by is control the controllables. If this offense can control the mistakes that they make, I'll trust them to keep themselves into a game, because I know the defense will be able to. And that's what I think you got to be telling yourself if you're at the NovaCare Complex this week and doing it against a team like the Raiders, who do not control the controllables many times. So there's a perfect opportunity to springboard yourself into the last month of the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah. And Jordan Davis, had a great interview talking about the everything that you believe in the offense, and everything they're doing is, right now is just something that you have to look at and say, hey, like, they're still some of the best players on that offense in the league. And, they just, when they turn it around, or if it comes, any game it comes, it's going to be something to open your eyes at and say, wow, that's a tough team. That we can't forget, this is the same team that won the Super Bowl basically. And, offensive line's got to be better, obviously, but it was really on the mistakes. I think even the way the offensive line played, here and there. If you don't make those mistakes, then you could put that. That's what holds you back from putting up 30 points. So it's control what you can control, like you said, and you got to, when you see the offense, have that big game, you're going to have to start respecting this team again, and that's all we're going to need. That's all the team's going to need. So we'll see what happens with that.
Definitely. One last thing before we get you out of here, but you mentioned Jordan Davis. I wanted to bring up that quote too, so thank you for doing that. I think that carries a ton of weight because of the combination of words and action. He is somebody who has catapulted himself into reaching his potential and beyond this year. And he did so in the biggest moment this past week where he was awesome in a game where his counterpart, Jalen Carter, was not there. So you have a guy who's playing really well. So I think when you're playing well and you're talented, people are obviously going to listen a little bit more when you have something to say in the locker room. 2, I think he is just a genuinely likable person. You can tell in every interview, every little quirky, fun locker room thing that they do with the players, he's genuinely likable. So I think he's really well respected in that locker room. So when he says something like that and the faith that he has in the offense, I do think that carries through the locker room to the offense. That like this guy who's playing really well has our back. We're still in this together. I think he was the perfect person to say something like that in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Couldn't have said it better, because he really does embody like what this team needs right now. Really confident player that's playing well even when things aren't perfect around him. Like you mentioned, Jalen Carter being out. That always is going to be like, oh man, now Jordan Davis is going to have to do a little more, but he's done it. He's stepped up. And so I think a lot of these players have to listen to him, in this way and get that confidence, and then like kind of embrace what he's been able to do and take it on their own. Like things haven't been perfect, but they're still all really talented players, and they got to believe in one another and have that faith in one another, and that's just going to build the chemistry. And a lot of people have even been talking about, I'm surprised we didn't bring up, and there's probably not enough time, but AJ and Jalen, like AJ's coming out in the locker room now in the interviews and defending Jalen Hurts like so outright, and you're like, man, like, and then you see the clips of Hard Knock and them like smiling and laughing. It's like, are we overreacting? Have they not looked at each other and smiled in the last 6 months, or is that actually the like, But hey, it's good to see. It's good to see.
We'll end it on this because it's such a good positive end on. But you mentioned Hard Knocks in the interviews, and it's like, this is the most cheery and joyful I've seen these guys this entire year. And I know it was a depleting loss, but it felt like they came away and they're like on better terms. So I hope that continues onto the field. But everything you see and hear from them, it just feels like they're like, yeah, we got each other. Like we got each other. I am my brother's keeper right now, which is great to see, because I think a lot of teams losing 3 straight would falter, and these guys seem to be in the opposite right now.
I think they kind of needed it in a weird way, because, when you win a lot, everyone starts to say, oh, it's because of me, or it's, I want to do it my way and I need to get my stats. And then when you start losing, you're like, maybe that was kind of stupid. Maybe we all do need each other, and maybe it's more about that, and we should mature up and realize that, and stop, acting like just showing up and we can do whatever we want. We can win still, because they won so much. And it's like, when you win so much, you start to like lose that like fundamental, like, all right, I got to, my technique has to be perfect, and my detail, it's like, oh, I'm just going to go and we're going to win anyway. But it's like, maybe losing has made them focus in a little more. And it sucks they had to learn, the hard way, and we had to deal with it the hard way. But got 4 games left, and could be a whole new season. So we'll, things change. We'll see.
Sports are always going to be humbling, and it feels like they reached a humbling point, and it might have course corrected them right back to realize we are better and stronger together. So let's hope. Tom, I appreciate you coming on again. Before we get you out of here, let everybody know, you mentioned you host spaces on Twitter a few times a week, right? So let everybody know where they can find you, follow you, and tune into that.
Yeah. It's just at Tom Stakes on Twitter. On Instagram too. You can follow me on Instagram. It's the same handle, at Tom Stakes. I'll probably start doing some content for Instagram. I mean, I post some stuff. It's more of a personal account, but I might start posting more and see how people respond. So follow me on both of those, and I'll end it with my thoughts on this. You beat the Raiders and Commanders in a row. You go into Buffalo feeling like that could be a massive game, and follow me so you can see this crazy roller coaster unfold on social media.
Hey, we win these next two. You and I might be up in Buffalo cheering on the boys. We'll keep the momentum rolling all the way up there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I can't wait. All right, Eagles back this week against the Raiders. Let's get back on track. Let's be positive. We'll be back with a recap show after the game. Hopefully, it's a positive recap show. We can talk about all the things the boys did well that we touched on in this episode. Tom, I appreciate it as always. I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me on, and go Birds.
Go Birds.